Good morning to you, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here in Santa Monica, California, United States of America, March 19, 2021. Today is the final talk in this series supporting the remarkably profound, courageous people, the women and men, the boys and girls, the nuns and monks in the country of Myanmar that has grabbed international awareness and conscience, but not sufficiently. Today is, although I use the word final, it's not the last talk, but it's the last talk that I imagine giving until I really understand the lay of the land in Myanmar and what are the next steps. And this is a radical sharing today because I don't represent a government, I don't represent an organization, it's a personal opinion. And for lack of better titles, an open, unrestricted declaration of war on MAH-SAC, the terrorist organization in Myanmar, run by Pol Pot of Burma, Saddam Hussein of Burma, Aung Hlaing. An open declaration of unrestricted war on the terrorist group in Myanmar, terrorizing the nation, the people, brutally torturing, poisoning, killing, horrifying the world with the evil. Every day, evil upon evil we're seeing and witnessing. So this talk doesn't come easily, but it's an honest sharing. Without truth-telling, we are nobody. And so today I want to speak not just from my heart, but to share the innermost recesses of my thinking process, my conscience. This is my final talk. I have a new book coming out. I've spent 8 months writing it. It's called Extinction X-Rated. It's an auto-fictional, dark satire about good and evil, life and death. It's not just about environmental issues and the societal collapse and the sixth mass extinction that we're presently engaged in, but it's philosophical. It's about the Dhamma. It's about what's the reason to use our mind in relationship to the transformation of politics, society, and existential rebellion. What does it mean to rise up to the highest radiance of your own truth and act on behalf of the greater good, which we're seeing in Burma today? I cannot imagine that I would be reading and seeing the images, the footage, the films, the texts out of my beloved Myanmar. No one in the world can imagine this, especially the people of Burma. And yet, here it is, in front of our eyes, in our minds. And for those who are brave enough to allow it to saturate their conscience, therein lies we become freedom fighters on behalf of goodness and truth and democracy and human rights, and in support of Burma, Myanmar's civil disobedience movement that's gaining momentum. And so when I use the word unrestricted war, I don't mean live fire alone, although that's been openly declared, and I'll talk more about that. But it's a no-holds-barred engagement to rid the country of the criminal, the terrorist, the Saddam Hussein of Burma today, Aung Hlaing, and his terrorist group, formerly known as Burma's military, the Thamada in Burmese language, but it is no more. They are men in uniform, women in uniform, that are frauds, that are liars, that are terrorists. Allow me to take my time today, and if I can invite you, be a force multiplier. This may be the most important talk I've ever given in my life. And I'd like to see, if you're moved, to share it worldwide into the inboxes of ambassadors at the United Nations, prime ministers, presidents, congresspeople, journalists, media people, your friends, your social tribe in the country, everywhere in the world, translate it Be a force multiplier and share it. For 11 years since Aung San Suu Kyi was released from detention in November of 2010, after nearly 16 years of detention, along with several thousand other men and women who had been imprisoned and tortured viciously, repeatedly. These courageous men and women, along with the people of Burma, embarked upon their visionary ideal of a restoration of freedom and democracy without the use of arms and violence against the military dictatorship. A parliament was formed, elections were taken. We know all this. Negotiations. The rule of law was put up as a neon sign worldwide, within the country as well. Let's respect this. It wasn't a perfect transition, but a remarkable feat of courage and continuity and dedication by these men and women led by Aung San Suu Kyi and many others. Meanwhile, an out-of-control military in Burma, terrorizing the ethnic groups, committing ethnic cleansing in the Rakhine State, something that I covered in the Karen State in 1990, a book called Burma, the Next Killing Fields. It is not new to this terrorist group to desecrate life to the point of ethnic cleansing and genocide. They are a criminal terrorist group, and yet Aung San Suu Kyi for the last 11 years, and all the courageous men and women, civilian savants in parliament and around the country that voted for a civilian government, said, listen, we're going to do this differently. We're going to use the power of the woman, the feminine, to talk over our differences. What an incredibly courageous task to get into the arena without a whip or a gun, with a killer crocodile, a killer tiger, an out-of-control serial killer known as MAH-SAC today. Who could ever criticize that woman and the people of your country, Myanmar, for choosing to do the unthinkable act of reconciliation with evil without resort to the weapon and the gun? 11 years later, we look back all the way from 1962, when the military commander Ne Win, in a coup d'etat, took over blessed Burma. Jump time to the massacre when U Thant, the beloved Secretary General of the United Nations, body was brought back, and the dictator refused to have an honorable ceremony and burial for this incredible, heroic global figure. 1976, mercilessly killing students in Rangoon. Jump time, 1988, based on circumstances. Millions of people took to the streets a year before China's Tiananmen Square. Ne Win ordered his soldiers to shoot and to kill. And all the students and the people of Burma wanted in 1988 was democracy, rule of law, the capacity to dream without fear. And Ne Win, a diabolical terrorist, the grandfather of Ming Aung Hlaing, the father of Tan Shui, ordered kill. And those soldiers, obedient to the dictator, shot, killed, bayoneted, tortured, raped, persecuted, and we know the results of that. The prisons were filled with young students. Aung San Suu Kyi was arrested. All of her colleagues were taken, put into prison, into private cells, tortured, jammed together without medical supplies, interrogated beyond belief, whipped, starved, and deprived of their families for decades. 2020, Daw Suu is finally released. Others are released. Here it is, 2021. 59 years since Ne Win's maniacal terrorism of taking over beloved Myanmar. A succession of dictators, a succession of terrorists with an obedient military that's turned rogue, mafia-like, terrorist organization like Boko Haram, like the Khmer Rouge, like the merciless, murdering machine of the Taliban and ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Who could ever imagine the succession of tyrants in Myanmar today run by the senior terrorist Ming Aung Hlaing? 59 years the people of Burma have bled, have dealt with persecution. Farmers had their land stolen, businesses destroyed, money taken, the currency devalued, taken off the market. Meanwhile, the commandeers, the terrorists themselves, their family, their wives, their children, those so-called cronies, that group of about 1,000 people, profit, privilege, and big money. And the world allowed it. And now they are in their mansions, in their private jets, in their affluence, in their personas of impenetrability in Naypyidaw today, with their bank accounts all over the world, especially in Singapore, and that nearly $100 million of cash that goes directly into the hands of Myanmar's terrorist group MAH-SAC every month into the Myanmar oil gas enterprise owned by the terrorist group MAH-SAC. And that's just one enterprise that fuels the terror of Burma. And what do they want the people to do and to believe after 59 years of unrelenting courage and grace under pressure? What do you want the people to believe except the truth of your actions? Point one. Your behaviors speak louder than anything you could ever imagine saying in photographs and in words and in press releases. You have revealed yourself to be the latest incarnation of terrorism in beloved Burma. And the people and the world have had 59 years too much of your lies and your murder and your rape and your persecution, and your days are over. Point one. February 1st, 2021, Ming Aung Hlaing, for whatever reason it was, I don't need to hypothesize about your neuroses, but your actions deliberately crucified the democracy movement that you were entrusted to co-evolve with the civilian government and parliament and the people's wishes. And you chose on February 1st, 2021, to completely deny the people's voice. Your response to the people was, I dare you. This is what we're going to do. This is what I am going to do. Daw Aung San Suu Kyi is immediately detained and put under some form of arrest, and at the moment we don't even know where she is. That's called sick human behavior. That's kidnapping. You did that to the president. You've done that to 18 journalists. You've done that to doctors and teachers. You've done that to filmmakers. You've done that to some of the most amazing human beings in your country, and you're threatening to do it every day, every way, every week, every month until you satisfy your bloodlust of torturing the people based upon their love of freedom and justice and democracy. What are we to believe except your actions? And now here we are, March 19th, February 1st to March 19th. What is that? 47 days of unrelenting tyranny and evil and horror. We threw out an olive branch to you. We said, everyone makes mistakes, Ming Aung Hlaing. get on national television, apologize, free Aung San Suu Kyi, free Win Myint, free the people, apologize, restore the parliament, take a back seat, retire, live in the luxury of your Naypyidaw mansion, appoint a new senior general that's much more open to plural democracy. But no. Point 2. You failed the mission with an olive branch. You were given that choice. Point 3. We asked senior members of your terrorist group, other military commanders, to see the folly of your way and to politely intervene in a very quiet, top-tier coup d'etat, and just simply put you under house arrest for a period of time to allow you to meditate with your wife, your daughter, and your son, and your friends, and your servants, and your wealth, not to do anything else except to remove you from the commander's seat of ongoing terror. And for 49 days, we've been waiting for senior members of the terrorist group to intervene and simply lock you away. But none of these men and women have decided to act on behalf of the people or world democracy. Failed mission. We've asked the wives of senior members of the terrorist group MAH-SAC. We've asked your wife, Ming Online, to slap you silly like a good wife should do, to put her man in place based upon the disgusting human behavior of an acclaimed Buddhist, as you say you are, that you have ordered the torture and the killing and the persecution of your people, and your wife and the women in this upper echelon of the terrorist group, the daughters, the sons, are you that obedient to evil? Are you that afraid of your own parents and your father and your husband? That you would collude with the Third Reich, with a Hitler, with the extermination of a country, of the people? That you would collude with that behavior? I want to say shame on you. But you were given that olive branch, women, and you failed the mission. 49 days in waiting is too long. The Mahasangha Council have been asked, step up your game, modernize your Dhamma. What am I to say about this? The country will have no more human beings to feed you, to give you medicines, to give you robes. It would be a mass ethnic cleansing of the entire population, and you are a perfectly dead right Buddhist senior monk living in a monastery where you can't cook, you can't own, and there are no lay people. Play it out. 11 million people were exterminated under Hitler, and we have a terrorist in your own country that is likened to a Saddam Hussein and very likely an Adolf Hitler of Asia. We have no idea how far out of control this man's evil and this military group called MAH-SAC will act to desecrate the country more than we're already witnessing after 49 days. What about another 49 days? And the Mahasangha Council, yes, you've made a statement. But for me personally, on the outside, and after being a former Buddhist monk in your country, I'm not saying failed mission, but I would want more. I mean, I would really want more. If I were a young monk in a monastery and I saw that my senior sayadaws were doing this in response to the horror of this country, and looking at history, whether it be Cambodia or Vietnam, Rwanda, back in the day in the Rakhine, in the Karen states, what's going on all over the country, and you put out a statement, Siddhagu Sayadaw, along with other senior members of that particular Buddhist sect, where is the outrage within the Dhamma? Where is the outrage that infuses a new form of metta that's co-joined with a radical, tough love compassion that is in the psychic ear and heart and face, and your duty is to obliterate the iron casing around Ming Online and the military's conscience. Your job is to obliterate and open his access to Hiri and Ottappa, conscious shame, conscious regret. Your job is to get into the face of Angulimala. And yes, I would want more. So I'm going to say to the MAH-SAC Council of Myanmar, with all due respect, failed mission. Why aren't the monks painting 3 fingers on their bowl? Why are the monks not turning their bowls over? A pronounced statement. We refuse to participate in the extermination of Jews in World War II. We refuse to participate in the extermination, the terrorizing of Karen, Kachin, Kaya, Mon, Shan, Burmese, Muslim, Jews, atheists, Buddhists. Step up your game, MAH-SAC Council. Step up your game, Buddhist monks and nuns. Yes, there is fear. But we must learn, right, to act as Daw Aung San Suu Kyi has encouraged and many other freedom fighters. Act despite the fear, monks and nuns. You would send a ripple across the sea of Myanmar. It would awaken the conscience of the globe to see the entire Sangha of Burma rise up in unity and say no to Angulimala in Naypyidaw, sitting in comfort, laughing at you, Mahasangha. Oh, they issued a terse statement of, please don't violate the people as you kill them. Pathetic. I go on record of saying, as a lover of Dhamma, of the Buddha, as a son of the Buddha, pathetic. Someone in that Mahasangha unit, somewhere in some of those monasteries, probably the nuns, rise up, do something so creatively innovative that it blows the mind, like the monk in Vietnam did when he lit himself on fire, poured kerosene all over his body, and blew the mind of the conscience of the globe into an luminosity. Look what America's doing to my people. This is the kind of pain inflicted upon the Vietnamese people. That's what MAH-SAC needs to see. I'm not encouraging immolations on the streets of Rangoon. That is your choice, but the boys and girls in Tibet do it. Stop terrorism by creative Dhamma action. Don't live in the dogma of metta on the seat, quiet waves of compassion and caring. Dana means food in your bowl. It doesn't mean the idea of putting food in your bowl. Metta in action isn't just a thought. It's a radical action of fire. Failed mission. We've asked the world community, established banks and businesses, enterprises, manufacturers, cease colluding with the terrorist machinery. Pull out all money, all cash, all goods. Make a collective world statement that obliterates what came down in South Africa with a global boycott. We've asked everyone, Shell, Oil, Total, the oil company out of Malaysia and Thailand, the ones in South Korea, all that money. In Naypyidaw, they're laughing at you. They know you want goods made. They know you want cash. They know you want gas and oil. A declaration of war means that that 2,200-kilometer pipeline from the Andaman Sea, the Bay of Bengal, that goes through Rakhine State, through the center of Myanmar, up into Yunnan province in China, is fair target for an explosive attack every 100 miles until there is no more oil. That's what's on the table. It's a declaration of unrestricted war. Look at history. Look at the ANC in South Africa. I'm going to get into that in a second. I'm not declaring war on the terrorist group. The ethnic groups, including the ethnic group called the Burman, have declared revolutionary war on a terrorist group. And the world supports that declaration of unrestricted war at this point because you've failed on all the olive branches. In businesses, you've got blood on your hands. You are asked to pull out, and you're continuing to support the murder machine of Al-Qaeda, Pol Pot, Saddam Hussein. If I were your son or your daughter, your friend or your ally, your golf partner, your tennis player, your wife, I would refuse to ever look at you, talk to you, touch your whatever it is that you do in the impunity of your desperate soullessness, that you are willing to collude with a terrorist group that's persecuting, putting poison in the face of people in their mouths, killing women with babies and teenagers, putting doctors in prisons, shooting into hospitals where women are giving birth at this very moment, where food prices are going up to 35% more than they were prior to this military terrorist takeover. Burma is on the cusp of a Syria, and all you fucking think about is money, just like Greta said at the United Nations. Blah, blah, blah. Blood on your hands. Failed. 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 Failed.